Welcome, good Friday afternoon out there. Gabe DeArmond here with our final live show of the week, or at least on a weekday, obviously. Game day tomorrow, homecoming weekend in Columbia, Missouri, North Texas. We'll be in town, but as we do every Friday, it is time to make college football picks this week, coming off, at least for me, the best week of the year. Also the worst week of the year because I didn't gamble any actual money. But we will get to the guest, Joe Walljasper, here in a minute, and we will give you excellent gambling advice as we always do. Before that, just excellent life advice. Fixing a furnace for the people at MasterTech. As easy as beating North Texas, but battling breast cancer is a real fight and one that they are trying to do their best to help out with in this month of October. Throughout October, MasterTech Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling will donate $10 from every HVAC service call and $100 of each heating and cooling system sold to the American Cancer Society's Real Men Wear Pink campaign. A great time to get your furnace repaired or replaced and also help out a great cause. You can call MasterTech at 777-7777 to get on the schedule. Also, if you do that and you are a viewer of this show or a listener, if you're listening on the podcast, if you set up that visit with one of MasterTech's comfort advisors, you get a free quote. You're going to get a $35 credit good on future service work on plumbing, heating, or cooling if you tell them you heard about it on our fine show here on PowerMizzou.com. And speaking of that, special for the occasion, Joe Walljasper, you're scheduling MasterTech appointments on the same day you're on the show. So excellent cross promotion there.
So if you hear a knock on the door and you hear a poodle going nuts, it's MasterTech.
It's the plumber. All right, good deal. We'll do our best to get you in and out. So you've cut back to writing once a month because you don't you're not necessarily your job to follow Missouri every day, but obviously I'm sure
thank God it's not.
Right, you're right. I'm sure. Well, last week was actually one of those weeks where you're like, hey, I can write about this. There's material here. But I'm sure you still follow college football avidly enough to give our viewers excellent gambling advice.
About as much as you might expect. So,
well,
as much as this show deserves.
I do want to point out I am 30-15 on the season, so I should have been against the spread. I should have been gambling all year. I may just quit and gamble everything I've saved. So, you know,
you could have done pretty well by betting against Missouri every week.
Every single week.
5-0. Yeah.
0-5 against the spread, one of three teams in the country. But the good news is Clemson is also one of those teams. So, they're in fine company. But we'll look, I like to start strong on this show, and we'll go ahead and start revealing the games we're going to pick. And I would find it hard for anybody to disagree with this statement. The game of the year in college football is this weekend. It is Connecticut at Massachusetts. It's two of the best programs in the country. Connecticut's favored by 3.5. I think we could just pick this game and it would make a fine show.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it's cool that Iowa is playing Penn State this week, and we're picking UMass UConn. So I'm on board.
I think we get to Iowa Penn State at some point, but we have to start with UMass UConn. So can you first of all name a player for either team, because there's zero chance that I could.
I think it's Marcus Camby and Ray Allen. Those are my two.
Okay. Which one's better? What do you think?
Alex Oriaki, I think, is going to be the key to this game. No, I was forced to do a little research on this since I hadn't watched a ton of UMass this year. Yeah. And I did enough cursory research to know they've lost by 88 combined points the last 2 weeks, while UConn has lost by 4 combined points the last 2 weeks. So I think UConn's going to win this one by 84.
84.
So I go with the Huskies.
I think 84 would cover it. I have watched 0 minutes of UMass football in the history of UMass, but I did watch the last drive of UConn Vanderbilt last week when Vanderbilt won on a last-second touchdown or a last-second field goal. I've got to think Vanderbilt's better than UMass, so for that reason, I'm going UConn to cover the 3.5. It'll probably be like 6-2, something along those lines.
This will be like if you were to bet on like a diaper derby at halftime of a basketball game where like there's 6 of them out there and 3 of them just dissolve into tears and 2 of them go sideways and one, you just got to hope you got the one that moves forward.
Anybody watching this game should actually immediately dissolve into tears. There's no excuse for watching this game on television.
Even by us talking about it, I think we're going to end up on a watch list. It's going to be like you're going to be on Facebook, and it's going to be like 1-800-BETS-OFF ads, targeted advertising for you.
Right. It's just going to be the Power Mizzou logo. So, all right, let's move on to a game that I think could at least name one player. I'm going to take the under on Tennessee rushing for 457 yards this week, but they're at home favored by 10.5 over South Carolina. What do you think?
So I think any outcome against Mizzou should be thrown out like you would throw out an FCS game. So I think Tennessee's getting way too much credit here. The Josh Heupel offense, they're great against a bad defense, not so great against a competent defense. And South Carolina actually has pretty good defense. So I think this line is inflated, so I would go with the Gamecocks here.
I almost went with South Carolina for the simple, like the letdown after the huge win over Missouri by Tennessee, but I think South Carolina is like maybe not even as good as Missouri, so I'm going Heupel to put up a bunch of points and cover at home in front of the rabid Tennessee fans that will be convinced that next year is the year they're going to win the national title after seeing Tennessee beat Mizzou and South Carolina. And I hesitate to do this. We're actually getting to good games now, games that like more than 7 people might watch. Georgia's nearing Alabama territory of just bet on them no matter what the spread is. Georgia giving 15.5 at Auburn. What do you got?
I would kind of agree with you that Georgia's defense is so good when you start figuring out, well, that's a lot of points, but it's like, yeah, but who on Auburn is good enough to put together a drive against Georgia? Georgia, their defensive coordinator, I think, is probably going to end up being the hot coordinator to a head coaching name after the end of the season. Dan Lanning, Richmond,
Park Hill South native guy.
Yeah. He went to William Jewell, so maybe file that away if Mizzou needs a head coach in the next 10 years. That he might be a hot name, but
if William Jewell needs a head coach.
True, that would be an interesting career move to move from a SEC to NAIA. Might be the first time.
You never know.
I like Georgia in this one. I just don't think Auburn has the kind of offense that is going to be able to incrementally drive it down the field, which you would have to do against Georgia.
Yeah, against my better judgment, I just think there's got to be a week where maybe Auburn or maybe Georgia doesn't look incredible, where they just kind of, they don't really play. They're going to win, but they don't play great. I think Auburn's a tough place to play. I think Auburn actually thinks maybe they're kind of decent after winning at LSU. So I don't know why I just typed in that I'm picking Georgia, because I'm not picking Georgia. I'm actually picking Auburn to lose but cover. It's going to be like 24-14. I just think this is kind of for some reason, I think it's just like a go through the motions game for Georgia. I'm sure that makes no sense. I'm sure Auburn's probably going to get blown out, but that's what I'm going with. Best game of the week, maybe. LSU giving LSU a 3.5-point underdog at Kentucky. I'm going to venture to guess that has never happened in college football history before.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if LSU was any good back when Kentucky had Jared Lorenzen as a quarterback and they used to win a few games.
Right.
It seems like this would be the classic one team is ready for a letdown and one team is desperate. But with LSU is so bad at running the ball, they're like the 128th, I think, or something like that in the nation at running it, which seems weird. And Kentucky will make you beat them with – they're going to keep everything in front of them. So I just don't know that LSU has a discipline to play that way and win. So I'm gonna take Kentucky here, even though you have to give up the 3.5.
Yeah, I'm impressed that the LSU running stat, that's the most research that's ever been given out on this show. So, so it's very impressive. Our viewers are much more knowledgeable than they've been on any previous episode. I had LSU down, and then you kind of convinced me. They're just not any good at much of anything. I think they're just kind of playing out the string, waiting to fire Gene Chizik. Ed Orgeron, and Kentucky's got that. Like Kentucky could go 11-1 if they win this game. Kentucky 11-1 going to the Sugar Bowl. This is not a sentence I ever thought I would say when Missouri joined the SEC. But here we are.
Yeah, it does set up nicely for them. And plus, if they lose to Georgia, then they're not going to have to take another loss in the SEC championship game. So, yeah.
Exactly. And I still think they're losing to Georgia. They're not like win the East good.
Right.
Also not win the East good is Vanderbilt, which is only giving 38.5 at Florida this week. When I think they were like a 36-point underdog to Georgia, and they played so badly in that game. Georgia was covering in the first quarter, and so now the line is actually even higher against a Florida team that's not as good.
Yeah, I think when the line is this high, for the underdog, it's a matter of, is the opposing coach a big enough jerk to really want to run it up? And I think if we know anything about Dan Mullen is that he is very willing to play that role. So for that reason, I'm taking the Gators.
Yeah, and Florida lost. They got beat last week at Kentucky. So I think they're probably angry, and they're going to come out and prove that they can beat up the weakest kid in class, and they are going to beat the piss out of Vanderbilt. It's going to be like 41-3 at halftime, and Florida will do enough in the second half to cover. All right, now out of the SEC for a minute, the game that used to be the biggest game of the year when we were covering Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, Red River, whatever we call it. Oklahoma favored by 3.5 over Texas in Dallas. What do you think?
I really haven't been very impressed by Oklahoma this year. I've actually seen them play a few times. Texas, I do like that they at least have a running back who's a NFL guy in Bijan Robertson, but Oklahoma can actually stop the run. So without any real conviction, I'll take the Sooners.
I keep waiting for Oklahoma to actually be good. I think they're ranked 5th in the country, and they look like they should be ranked about 35th. But Oklahoma never covers in this game. I think Texas actually might just win this game straight up. I'm rooting for like a Texas-Iowa State Big 12 title game or something just to see somebody different. I'm picking Texas to win. They probably won't, but even if they don't win, I'm at least hopeful they cover. Trap game for Alabama. I don't know if you saw that. Nick Saban calls Texas A&M a trap game for the Crimson Tide now. They're favored by 17.5 in College Station.
That's a total dig at Jimbo Fisher.
100%.
You're not even really good enough to be considered a threat. You've become our Vanderbilt. I think, the only real opponent of Alabama during the regular season at this point is boredom. But I think Jimbo Fisher's offseason comment probably was enough to manufacture a little motivation for them. And A&M, really, you almost have to have a dynamic quarterback to even hang with Alabama. The games they've lost, it's usually been to a mobile, dynamic quarterback, and that is sort of the opposite of Zach Calzado. So, Alabama.
That's what I'd want someone to describe me as, just immobile, completely non-dynamic. That's an incredibly complimentary review. But yeah, the only question is, can Alabama score 25 points? Because there's no way A&M's scoring more than 7. A&M's offense is dreadful. Alabama is going to run away and hide. And like you said, I think, I can't remember the exact quote, but Jimbo said something in the summer when Alabama showed up, he guaranteed they were going to kick Alabama's ass, and I feel like that's not aging well for Jimbo, and the season is going south very quickly.
He didn't specify. He might have meant women's basketball.
And that's a possibility. I don't know if A&M's any good at that, but I don't think Jimbo coaches it. Although he gets paid enough, he should coach every damn team on campus.
The other thing is, like, for Texas A&M, for all the, it is a great atmosphere, or whatever, but they lose there a lot. I mean, I think I personally watched Missouri beat them there 3 times, so I don't think it's that big a deal that Alabama is not going to wilt at the title field.
Right, they get a bunch of people in there, but they just aren't that good. They're never that good. Yeah. All right, staying in the SEC. This should be a good game of, like, these were the 2 teams last week that everybody said, oh, hey, they've got a chance, and this is their moment on the national stage, and they both kind of tripped and fell. Arkansas 6-point underdog at Ole Miss.
Now, Sam Pittman was the head coach at my high school alma mater a few years after I graduated. And so I have, at one time I did play a game of pickup basketball with Sam as a teammate in my high school gym. And I can tell you he's a willing shooter. And past results do not indicate future attempts. So he's a guy with a short memory. And I think that's going to serve him well. That Georgia loss is not going to bother him. I think last year Barry Odom's defense intercepted Matt Corral 6 times.
Correct.
So feel good about the Razorbacks in this one.
Okay. I think you go with whatever the best unit on the field is. I think the best unit on the field is Ole Miss's offense. Arkansas's defense is good, but I think Corral kind of gets him going again. I think Lane Kiffin has a little fire. I think Ole Miss covers. I'm looking at this. We've disagreed on, like, virtually every game, so that makes for a good week. I don't think we're going to disagree on our last game, to be quite honest. We usually spend a little extra time on this on the last game. We always pick Mizzou last. Last I looked at the line, it is a 19-point favorite for Missouri over the Fighting Wren Bakers and Seth Luttrell's. What do you think?
I have zero confidence that anybody on the staff knows how to fix this defense because
it's been 5 weeks.
If anybody had a good idea, they wouldn't have last week decided what we really need to do is take a defensive lineman and stand him up as a linebacker. And it's kind of like I've got this COVID and I'm going to go down to the feed store and let's give this ivermectin a shot. That's kind of what we're looking at here with when you come up with a 3-3-5 with a defensive tackle playing linebacker. So I don't think it's going to get fixed. And as I was watching that game, I think we even texted during the game. I was like, this is the kind of loss that is going to require a blood sacrifice. And so, sorry, Jethro, you were the guy. But unless he was teaching those defensive linemen to backpedal 5 yards and fall down, I don't think his departure is going to change that much. So with that said, I think Missouri wins this game. Does not win by 19 points.
So it is. We've come to the conclusion this has not all been Jethro Franklin's fault. We think there's more blame to go around.
The issues are deeper seated.
Yeah, I mean, I have made the same pick on every show I've done this week. I am picking Missouri 81-78 on a Harrison Mevis 3-pointer with the assist from long snapper Jake Hoffman. I couldn't name a North Texas basketball player, but I do know they got their first ever NCAA tournament win last year. Grant McCasland is the coach. This is going to be a basketball score that would actually upset Konzo Martin. Far too many points for a basketball game in this one. 81-78. So I guess I've got Missouri winning. I do not have Missouri covering. What, in all seriousness though, what should cause concern in this game for Missouri fans? Like I don't think, even if you win like 45-10, I don't think anybody walks out of here necessarily feeling better. But what do you see this weekend that you go, oh yeah, we're not any better, and it's like 1-5 the rest of the
way? I think you would need to hold them to about 150 yards rushing or less to make me think this could in any way be translatable to at least holding an SEC team to 250 yards. That, make them occasionally throw the ball, out of more than just boredom. That would be what I would like to see. Because I think as it is, you could say, well, maybe in one of these future games that get a couple turnovers, but you're not really forcing a lot of turnovers when you're just chasing guys and just happy to push them out of bounds, which is, they're not really, it's not like one guy's standing someone up and someone else is flying in and hitting the ball. It's like there's just nobody near these guys.
Right.
So that makes the turnover part pretty difficult. You basically, like, maybe Jalen Carlisle is await on the 1 yard line and punch the ball out as they're crossing the goal line. That seems to be their best defensive play this year.
I went back and looked. There's one team in Missouri history that's given up more rushing yards per game than this one. Were you in Columbia in 1991?
Yeah, I went to college during the Bob Still era,
Yeah.
so I've seen this show before. It doesn't end well.
Yes. That was Bob Stoll's 91 team, gave up 334 yards a game rushing, but like that was against peak Colorado, peak Nebraska, and pretty close to peak Oklahoma, not SEMO and Tennessee and Boston College. So I feel like those numbers are better.
I believe the way that season ended was with Tony Sands being hoisted on his KU teammate's shoulders and carried off the field after rushing for 396 yards by himself against Missouri.
Yeah, that's I forgot about the Tony Sands game. Those were the glory years. I'm sure everybody's happy that we're referencing those on this show. So, all right. Well, Joe, you've got high standards to live up to. So far, our guests this year are 23-22. So, like, if you finish under 500 this week, you're officially the one that gives the guests a non-winning record for the season. So a lot of pressure. I know that there are thousands of people who watch this show and base their gambling picks for Saturday on it. So,
well, if I win, I hope I get a free toilet unclogging or something along those lines to make it all worthwhile. Yeah,
when the MasterTech guy shows up, just say, "Hey, I heard about it on Power Mizzou." You get a $35 gift card, I think.
Okay, I'm excited about that.
All right, man. Have a good one, Joe. Thanks, bud. Appreciate the time.
See you later.
All right, that is Joe Walljasper joining us this week as the guest picker on our MasterTech Choosing Wisely pick show. Let's take one more look and run through these UConn-UMass. Like, that's just such an awful game. We had to pick it. We both go UConn based on nothing. I've got Tennessee. Joe's got South Carolina. I've got Auburn. He's got Georgia. We agree on Kentucky and Florida and Alabama and North Texas. I've got Ole Miss. He's got Arkansas. And then the one other difference, I've got Texas. He's got OU in the Red River Showdown or rivalry, I believe it's called these days. I'm 30-15 on the year. The guests are 23-22. So Joe's got to represent and make up a little ground on me. As always, in all seriousness, gamble if you want to, where it's legal if you want to. Don't blame us if you lose. We don't recommend our picks. We do this sheerly for fun, and we do it thanks to the folks at MasterTech. You can find them online at mastertechphc.com. There's the web address right there. The coolest phone number on the planet at 573-777-7777. And once again, want to remind you that MasterTech this month, all October, they're donating $10 from every HVAC service call and $100 of every heating and cooling system sold to the American Cancer Society's Real Men Wear Pink campaign. Great time to get your furnace repaired or replaced and help out a great cause at the same time. Give them a call, 573-777-7777 to get on the schedule. Again, $10 from every service call, $100 for every heating and cooling system sold, donated to that American Cancer Society campaign. And, hey, you don't necessarily even have to spend the money with them right away, but if you call them and set up a free consultation with one of their comfort advisors, they're going to come out, give you a free quote on a new heating and cooling system, just let you know what it would cost if ever you need to. You'd get a $35 credit for future service work on plumbing, heating, or cooling. Some restrictions do apply, but let them know when you make that call that you heard about it here on Choosing Wisely on PowerMizzou.com, and they'll hook you up with a $35 credit for future work. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us here all week. We always just try to end the week just having a little bit of fun, messing around, picking college football games terribly. So that is what we've done on the way out. We'll give you one more look at the games we picked and who picked which team. For the first time all year, neither person on the show picks Mizzou to cover because Mizzou is 0-5 against the spread this year. So smart money says bet on Alabama, bet against Mizzou. You probably end up winning money, honestly. We both do think Missouri's going to win the game, but we both think they're not going to win it by as many as 20 points. So kickoff tomorrow at 3 p.m. That means we're going to start our pregame show right about 1:45 tomorrow afternoon. We'll lead you right up to kickoff of Mizzou and North Texas, and then obviously we'll be back here after the game with the post-game drink to either celebrate a week of relief or let you commiserate about another terrible week for Missouri football. We'll see how it goes, but we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us all week. Thanks once again to the folks at MasterTech. Go see them, mastertechphc.com, or give them a call at that number, 573-777-7777. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you tomorrow.